We are ready to begin. Okay. Welcome to our second class since this new series that we're starting the beginning of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Last week we discussed the first siman, the first chapter, chapter 1, which basically discusses how a Jew wakes up in the morning, which I spoke about this last week, but I can't get over it. Every time I talk about it, what a beautiful idea, what a beautiful concept, how there's instruction. It's a whole chapter in our book of laws, the Code of Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch, how to wake up, right? It's not like how to put on tefillin or how to keep Shabbos, just how to wake up, right? Even from the moment we wake up, we already have instructions of how to do it in a beautiful way. Remember, to wake up like a lion, not to give in to the first temptation of just kind of take it easy. No, we have a mission, we have a purpose. We have to serve the Eibusher. So we wake up extremely, with a levidikai, with a liveliness, with a chayas, and we start our day. Today we're going to focus on the second chapter, Halacha Siman Beis. We'll see if we get into Gimel at all, but I think we'll probably just have to just focus on the second chapter, the second Siman, as it's called. And the Siman Beis is the halacha of Hilchos Netilas Yadayim Shachris. We wake up in the morning after we say Modani. We spoke about last week, before we wake Negavaser. The first thing we do after that is we wash our hands, Netilat Yadayim. Or in Yiddish, as we say, Negel Vaser. We wash our fingertips. So we read it inside Halacha Aleph, the first halacha. The fisha ha'adam kashikami mitase shachris u'kamoy b'riya chadash. So right away he begins with the reason. What is the reason why we have to wash our hands in the morning? Because when a person wakes up in the morning, he is like a b'riya chadasha, like a new existence, a new person. Getting ready to serve Hashem. Same way, like the kohen, the priest, the kohenim in the Beis Hamikdash, when they would enter in the beginning every morning, the first thing they would do before they would do the service in the Beis Hamikdash, they would wash their hand from the kiyar, from the water basin. So too, we are like a kohen every day. We are ready to serve Hashem. So before we serve Hashem, right in the morning, we have to wash our hands. The samach l'netila zu minat mikra shenemar erchas b'nikoyin kappa v'aseva v'es mizbechacha Hashem mashmir b'kol teda. I wash my hands before I go to the mizbeach. So we see that we compare like the mizbeach serving doing karbanis, the service in the Beis Hamikdash, to every person their own going about their day. So that's one reason. So reason number one, the Kitzur gives, why do we wash our hands? Just like a kohen washes their hands before the service, which is another beautiful concept, right? Wake up in the morning. Okay, I'm going about my day. What am I doing today? I'm going to work. I'm going to mow the lawn. I'm on vacation today. I'm going to watch television all day, right? I'm just going to have an easy day. No, but the first thing in the morning, you have to wash your hands. Why? Because it's a day, and as a Jew, every day we're serving Hashem. So the first thing we do, we got to wash our hands. Same way a kohen wash their hands.
I understand the Cohen aspect of that answer, but it says in the beginning, like you're a bria chadasha, like a new creation.
Right. Because the question is, I washed my hands yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm washing my hands again today. Because every day, a bria chadasha, you're like a new person. So the same with the kohen, only washes his hands once a day, but the next day, yesterday's washing does not apply for today.
Oh, so that would make sense that if you don't go to sleep.
Oh, that's the question. The question is, what happens if you don't sleep? Do you have to wash your hands? That's a good question. And we'll talk about that. Also, we'll throw in the second reason to see if that applies, whether we don't sleep at all. But that's the general thing, right? We're already past that stage where we stay up at night. We're like, so we go to sleep at night, we wake up in the morning, and wash our hands. That's reason number one. But the second reason. Now, this is something perhaps is more spoken about. The second reason, the fee shebishas sheina shenistalka mimenu nishmasa kadesha ba ruach hatuma v'sheir al kufay. When a person sleeps, what happens is their neshama, part of their soul, leaves their body, says somewhere else, a 60th of the soul, of the neshama. It's like a 60th of death, because the 60th of your soul goes up to heaven, gets washed. You mentioned earlier, right? We say Madani because our soul is returned to us. So during that void of the neshama within us, so a impure spirit comes and rests on our body. What does that mean? The idea is a general idea in Chassidus that whenever there's something holy, holiness fills up, right? I have a cup. If I fill it with something holy, like Coke Zero, it's filled, right? But the moment it's a little bit, if I drink from it, right, a little bit of it is emptied. So now that gives space for anything else to fill it. So the neshama fills the body. At the moment the neshama leaves, it gives space for negative spirits, to impure spirits to take hold of the body. So that's what happened. The person sleeps. That's exactly what happened. And this is a concept that applies to many different areas. It applies to women giving birth and things like that. Why there's certain tumah. It's the same idea. When there's an intense level of kedusha and there's a void, then it gives space for the opposite spirits to take hold. So every morning we wake up. So when we wake up in the morning, the Ruach HaTumah leaves automatically. But what happens when we wake up? And Neshama comes back. And Neshama comes back, pushes away the Ruach HaTumah, the impure spirits. Problem is, for whatever reason, it doesn't fully leave. It kind of leaves, but it kind of gets stuck right by the fingertips. Evidently, it leaves through the fingertips. I don't know if this is true or not, but I remember as a child, they used to hear like stories about dibuk. Ever heard of I'm not sure if dibuk is really a true concept, but if it is, we're like, you ever heard of a dibuk before? Either way, so they say that it leaves the body through the fingers. I don't know if the people who wrote about the dibuk took it from here, or it's a true concept, regardless, that it leads through the fingers. The idea is that this negative spirit, this impure spirit, leaves through the fingers, but it kind of remains, a residue of it remains on the fingers. And the only way to get rid of this Ruach HaTumah is through pouring water, but not just water. Obviously, we don't mean cleaning it with soap. It's specifically pouring water in the way of you rotate, you do 6 times, but 3 on each hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the way this Ruach HaTumah leaves the body. So that is the second reason why we have to wash our hands. And this reason, a little more severe. First reason is it's just like a good thing, or we're starting our day, we're thinking about to serve Hashem. Second reason, we're getting involved already with Ruach HaTumah. We're getting involved with the impure spirits. It's like, we don't really know what it means. We can't feel it, we can't touch it, but it's kind of scary. It's like we don't want to go there. So that's why it's a lot more, we have to be a lot more careful with when we do it and how we do it. We really want to make sure we're not walking around with this Ruach HaTumah. Because this Ruach HaTumah, we have a negative spirit, we don't want to bring it on to other things. We don't want to bring it around the house. We have to be so much more careful with Negovasser for the second reason. And that's why it gives us a few things because of this. So first of all, therefore, we're not allowed to walk 4 amos without washing your hands. Arba amos is roughly 6 feet. Okay, so ideally we shouldn't be walking more than 6 feet from our beds without washing Negovasser. And therefore, it says a chacham einav b'roshei, a wise person, his eyes are in his head. Well, obviously, where else is his eyes? Because he sees the future, right? So if you realize that in the morning, you have to wash Negovasser right by your bed. So the night before, you're supposed to prepare Negovasser right by your bed. So you take a pail and a quart, and you prepare it next to your bed the night before, so you don't have to walk more than 6 feet in the morning. That's an extremely important reason you don't have Negovasser. Okay, what are you gonna do? Stay in bed all day. So when I was in yeshiva, that's what you do. I've got to be Negovasser. Sorry, can't wait to say that. I was waiting for someone to come back from during lunch break to save me out of bed. But definitely not worth Bittul Torah because you don't want to walk the 6 amas, but 4 amas. But that's what we should do. We make sure we prepare it in advance. Or if you didn't prepare and someone else is in the house, we call them and say, hey, can you please bring me Negavaser? We don't walk the 4 amas.
Is it problematic to put your feet on the floor, or is it best to even do it with your feet off the floor?
Okay, it's a great question. So over here, we don't mention anything about putting your feet down. All it mentions is not to walk the 4 amas without Negavaser. Just want to add over here, they add from the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch that even if you're in bed, you should. Let's say you are laying in bed for a few minutes. You should first make Negavaser, and then you can lay back in bed. If you have to lay back in bed, you shouldn't, because again, for the same reason, you don't want the tumor to remain on your hands for any time longer. So you wake up in the morning, you say Maidani, wash Negavaser, and then you want to lay down for another few minutes. That's fine. If you think it's a responsible thing to do, right? Like you said last time. But even if you're in bed, it's better to wash Negavaser before. Even if you're lying in bed for extra few minutes, first wash Negavaser, then you continue washing lying in bed. The Alter Rebbe says clearly here that if you don't have water, it's better not. You shouldn't be mevatel Torah. You shouldn't say, "Oh, I'm not going to get up and I'm going to do this Torah study because I didn't have a chance to wash Negavaser in the bed." So it's better to wash your hands with something else and then get up and wash by the sink. Better than just wasting time in bed. Now, here does not mention anything about putting your feet down. There is this tradition. It's from Chassidim. I forget the name of the Chassid. It's written in one of the Sfarim from maybe Rabbi Perlov or something like that. But there's a tradition, I think, from the Chassidim of the Rebbe Maharash. They used to say that yes, it is better not to even put your feet down on the bed. Put your feet down on the floor. So ideally, while you are laying in bed, that is kind of make Negavaser either on your bed or on the bed, however you do it. Not even to put your feet down on the floor. Not always easy, and that's not something that's mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch itself. So it's not usher, it's not prohibited to put your feet down on the floor. The main thing is you want to make Negavaser near your bed within 6 feet. If you're able to do it in a way where you don't even actually put your feet on the floor, that's even better. But that's not a halacha. It's not like it doesn't mention that in the Shulchan Aruch at all. It's an extra custom that people have, not to put your feet on the floor.
So walking the 4 amas is not.
That's right over here. It says it clearly, but also leilach arba amas. It's forbidden to walk 4 amas down the Teilas Yadayim. So it says it clearly in the Shulchan Aruch. I think the idea is you don't want to bring this tumah with you 4 amas. Okay. We'll get to later in the Halacha 8. It talks about if you didn't sleep, or if you only took a little nap, or sleeping during the day. So we'll get to that soon. Halacha 2. Halacha Beis. Yilvash Malbush Adishon is the first thing. So now you made Negavaser, and we'll get back to Negavaser in a moment. But just to kind of keep it to the order of Chizur Shulchan Aruch, and then we'll add from the other Sfarim different ideas, different halachas or minhagim about Negavaser. Yilvash Malbush Adishon is the first thing we do when we get dressed. We put on, obviously the men, we put on our tzitzis, our talis katan. Shlo yelech arba amas b'li tzitzis, because you're not supposed to walk 4 amas without tzitzis. And the Alter Rebbe adds that the people who are medayik, it's even better, be more particular with this, to actually sleep with your tzitzis.
Really?
However, you don't make the bracha on the tzitzis until you wash Negavaser again, whatever. So when you're able to make the brachas, because you don't make a bracha on this Negavaser that we make by the bed, we don't make a bracha. And that's why our custom is we make a second Negavaser later down, up to the kitchen or whatever, and we wash up, and then we make a proper Negavaser. The reason I think for this is because while we are in bed, first of all, we haven't really washed, right? We haven't rinsed our mouth yet. We haven't really washed up, so we're not really ready. It's not really respectful to make a bracha as is. And also, sometimes it's kind of difficult to be so careful to make sure you're making a proper Negavaser. So that's why we make Negavaser again after we're dressed, after we're washed up. We make Negavaser again, and that's when we say all the brachas in the morning. So that's when we'll also make a bracha on our tzitzis, etc. But the morning one we put on our tzitzis, but we do not make a bracha. Now, one of the reasons why, first of all, the mitzvah of tzitzis, and we'll get to that obviously later. We'll talk about tzitzis. Is a mitzvah. There's no mitzvah mid'oraisa. There's no biblical mitzvah to wear a four-cornered garment with tzitzis, right? If all our shirts and pants and whatever it doesn't have four corners, halacha 4 corners, we don't have to put on tzitzis, right? It doesn't say you should wear tzitzis. You should wear tzitzis on your four-cornered garment. If you don't have four-cornered garment, you don't wear tzitzis. The Chachamim told us there's a mitzvah not to walk without tzitzis. Like we should use the opportunity to wear tzitzis. Buy yourself a four-cornered garment and put tzitzis on it, and you make a bracha. And it reminds you of all the mitzvahs. It's a beautiful thing. Why shouldn't you do it, right? So that's the Chachamim says. So it's not so the mitzvah is, only, is that if you're wearing this garment, which you should wear the garment, then you are fulfilling the mitzvah. Now, because this mitzvah, it says, what's it say? I don't forget what the verse is. It's derived from the verse that it only applies during the day. Maybe I remember, but with Isam, I think, because it says that you should see it, and you can only see the strings. Through seeing the strings, it reminds you of all of this. And you can only see at night, during the day, not at night. So the mitzvah of wearing tzitzis is only during the day, which means, in theory, I could wear a four-cornered garment without tzitzis at night. The mitzvah is only to wear the tzitzis during the day. So therefore, like any other mitzvahs asay, shazman grama, any other positive mitzvah, which is time-bound, it only applies to men. Women are exempt. So too, that's the reason why women do not wear tzitzis. So the mitzvah is the moment we wake up in the morning, before we even walk 4 hours, we should already put on our tzitzis. However, the Alter Rebbe writes that it's better to sleep with tzitzis. That's the minhag of Chassidim. That even at night we sleep with tzitzis. One reason is because many people wake up before, after the daylight, right? Even though we said last year, we say we should wake up the morning, or we should wake up before dawn. But many of us wake up after dawn, right? So it's ready to day. So we're laying in bed for an hour or two without tzitzis. So that's why you should wear tzitzis all night. And then there's the concept that at the end of the day, you're being wrapped with a mitzvah even at night. So that's why the minhag of Chassidim is to wear tzitzis all night long. And then we'll get to the whole discussion of whether you should have 2 pairs of tzitzis, night pair, day pair. If you have a night pair, is it even tzitzis? Because if it's a night pair, that's not obligated in tzitzis. So that's a discussion for the laws of tzitzis. But either way, this is what it says over here, that the first thing we get dressed in, we wear our tzitzis.
I heard that when you go to a graveyard or a cemetery, you have to tuck in your tzitzis because all of the dead people wish they would see it and they get jealous because they wish they could just do the mitzvah tzitzis one more time.
That is true. It's not only tzitzis, by the way, it's any mitzvah. Like we don't put on tefillin in the graveyard. The same reason, because the people in the graveyard, the dead people, they cannot do any mitzvah. So we don't want to be openly doing a mitzvah right in front. So it's like a sensitivity type of thing, right? So that's why if you wear tzitzis, we tuck them in their pockets. Yeah. Okay. Halacha 3, Halacha Gimel. So how do you wash your hands in the morning? You take a vessel, a keli, which by the way, which means that you can't just wash your hands well with soap, right? You're washing it the same way you're washing for bread, right? You have to take a proper keli. You pick it up with your right hand. The noise, like the smile, you pick up with your right hand, you pass it to your left hand, and then you pour on your right hand. Which is interesting, right? It doesn't say. In general, you always do it right before or left. Right comes before left in Judaism. It says if you're ever traveling, you come to a fork in the road, you don't know where to go. Where do you go?
Right.
Go right. It says in the Beis Hamikdash, when the Kohanim, they had to walk around, do the things. They always turned right. So if they were standing over here, they had to get over here. They would turn right, and then they would kind of get to that spot.
That's what FedEx does too.
Yeah, right. Always going right. So we have to wash our right hand first. So how do you wash your right hand first? So you obviously hold the cup with your left hand, then you pour it on your right hand. But even when you're picking up the cup, you're supposed to pick up your cup with your right hand first. So what do? Is you pick it up with your right hand, pass it to your left hand, and then pour on your right hand.
Like Kiddush.
Same thing with the Kiddush, by the way. Kiddush, you're supposed to hold the Kiddush cup with your right hand. But you're also supposed to lift it up with your right hand.
And so,
And the Kiddush cup has to be top, to the brim. So you can't just like pick it up and then like it's gonna spill, right? So you got to pick it up with your right hand, pass it, throw it in, pass it to your left hand, and then put it onto your right hand.
that's all.
Right. Now, anyone here left-handed?
Yes,
You're left-handed?
That's what I was about to bring up.
Oh, so left-handed. Rabbi Nemes actually has a book called Itur Yad. It's like a book. Are you left-handed? It has all the halachas, all the laws for the left-handed person.
Very important special.
It's a very important special people. The more creative people, right? And I have 2 children who are lefties, and I guess they get it from my father-in-law. Neither me or my wife are left-handed. Anyway, in every case it's like a case by case, but I believe within Til Sinai, you still do your right hand first. This is something you do with your right hand because it has to do with like this impurity. So that is the same with everyone. But there are other things that we definitely, I think with Kiddush, I think you do on your left hand.
You do an object. You do with your right hand, which is your left hand. Meaning a person's left hand is like everybody else's right hand.
Right.
That's how it says. So Kiddush or Hanukkah candles you do with your left hand. But anything which is about the direction, like putting on the right side or the right shoe first, or doing things the right side.
I mean, it's not your personal right; it's just the right of something,
The
right?
person before them, they would not go to the left.
Right, they go to the
So
right.
it's the direction to the right, but it's your like performance you do with the left.
Right, interesting. So that would be probably a difference between the 2 reasons for washing your hands. If washing your hands is just like a way of preparing for your day because you're like about to serve Hashem, so then maybe you could do your left hand first. But if it's about getting rid of this impurity, so the impurity doesn't know about right and left, right? It's just whatever reason it has to be done in this way. So it's either the right hand first. Okay. So you do this 3 times. So it's better to do it all the way till here, to the bone. That's where you gotta wash your entire hand. But if you don't have enough water or whatever it is, at least to do it all the way to the knuckles. Interesting question is what happens on Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av, but where you're not supposed to wash your hands, right? So what do we do in this Yom Kippur morning? You wash only up till here. We don't wash till here. So if you're supposed to do it till here because of tumah, because the impurity is on your whole hand, so Yom Kippur you're walking, everyone, the holiest day of the year, and everyone's in shul with this extra tumah in their hands. So I think the Rebbe wants to address this. The Rebbe said that the reason why the tumah comes is because there's a lack of kedusha, a lack of holiness. So it kind of takes. But on Yom Kippur, because we have such an extra holiness in Yom Kippur, our etzem and neshama, the etzem and neshama is revealed. That itself pushes away that the tumah. Matzah Yom Kippur, right? The moment Yom Kippur is over, we make havdalah. Before we eat, you're supposed to make an egalasa. Why? Because now Yom Kippur is over. So now that tumah comes back, spreads over our hands. That's why you have to wash them. That's an interesting concept. Okay. So also, in addition to washing our hands, so you're also supposed to wash your face. Not just, hey, it's a nice thing to wash your face in the morning, but the halacha teaches us that in order to prepare for the day, to prepare to stand before the king, you're about to daven, you're about to serve Hashem, you're supposed to wash your face. Look at that. What does it say in the pasuk? That the person, the man, human, was created in the image of Hashem. For that alone, you should wash your face. You should. It's like it's not my image; it's God's image. So I got to respect it. You got to wash it. You're also supposed to wash your mouth, rinse your mouth because you're going to speak to Hashem. So you also have to have a clean mouth. You're supposed to rinse your mouth. For some reason, I remember it saying somewhere they're supposed to rinse your mouth at least 2 or 3 times. Right? Remember that lesson somewhere? Pretty sure it says somewhere. You're supposed to, before you make a bracha, you should rinse your mouth 2 or 3 times.
And Sefer Manhagim says.
When I was in Toronto in yeshiva, so we were in a dormitory, boys' dormitory, lots of fun. And then and the dormitory was like in the house, and we used to be in yeshiva. So in the morning, like in a dorm, it's always like a rush because we had 7:30. We have to be at Seder. We have to be the first class at 7:30 a.m. And we're boys. We're up all night late, whatever, right? And we're waking up at 7:26. We're just like jumping out of bed, making nagavasser, throwing on a shirt, and just like running to school, right? Running to yeshiva. And we get in 7:30. Mark the time. Great. So then when it came to like, you got to wash up, you got to brush your teeth, this and that, right? So who wants to like schlep all the way back to the dorm? It was like a 10-minute walk and like whatever. In Toronto, it's cold. So we started bringing our toothbrush and toothpaste to yeshiva. And like after davening, from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, 7:30 to 9 o'clock was first class chassidus. Then we said daven. And then we had like breakfast. And then like I think 11, we had our first like real class, we have a second class for the day. So we had like a half-hour, 40-minute break for breakfast. So we used to like eat breakfast, and it has a few minutes. So like it became like a trend. Like all the Balkan used to go to the bathrooms in the yeshiva and brush their teeth after breakfast before. I remember one of the Mashpim heard about it, and he was very upset. He says, like really, you're supposed to like wash up and prepare for that, like. For davening, not like after davening and after breakfast. Now I'm going to wash up. Now I'm going to take a shower. Now I'm going to, but like, there's nothing wrong with an halacha there. You rinse your mouth before davening. It's halachically it's fine. But the idea is, if you view davening as if you had an important meeting, right? It's an important meeting. You're going to wash up and brush your teeth and really be ready for that meeting before davening, right? Before that meeting, right? So davening should be viewed that way as well. It's not like, hey, I got to have the morning routine. I have a rush. I'm going to daven. Then after davening, now I have a few minutes. Now I can go wash up. No, davening should be viewed like I have this important meeting with God, important meeting with the king, important meeting with the president, right? So I'm going to wash up and do everything before then. That's what the halacha over here says. Wash your face, wash your mouth. Be prepared for all before davening. Okay, halacha dal. So now we're going back to some of the halachas of negavaser. When you're washing negavaser, you should not wash it on the floor. Obviously, even if you have your campsite or whatever, you have soil where you can say, well, pour it outside, right? So you're supposed to wash it specifically into something, into a pail or something. I wonder how this applies. Like I know myself when I say travel, if I'm driving, I have to make negavaser. So I'm driving all night, come here to Toronto, and then I got to wait a cigarette in the morning before I eat something. I want to make negavaser, so I just stop by the gas station, and I'll just take some water. And I'll wash on the floor, like concrete or whatever, on the grass. But here, it seems like it's better to wash into something. Interesting. But also the however, this water, again, because of the second reason that it's like taking away the impurity, the water now becomes impure. The water now is tummy. And it says there's a ruach ra'ah, there's a negative spirit that is in this water. So you have to be very careful with what we do with this water. So the Alter Rebbe says you shouldn't even keep it in your house. You should pour it out right away. Where should you pour it out? In a place that people are not walking. Today it's easy. You pour it out in the bathroom, right? Pour it out. It's even better not to pour it out in your kitchen sink on dishes. Oh yeah, of course you're washing dishes, it's a big deal, but you want to kind of like keep it away from anything. Just pour it out. Don't leave it out. Kind of pour it out right away.
For bread, washing for bread, like there's dishes in the sink, not an issue. You brought that
so
up.
Washing for bread is not really this idea of taking away this negative spirit. I have seen people who are careful with that as well, but I don't think that's really so important here. I mean, even here, it doesn't say you can't wash it, you can't pour it on dishes. It's just like it's a bad spirit. It's almost like the night of the Seder when we pour the wine by the plagues. And that wine's like, don't drink it. Just throw it out. So it's like a bad spirit. So too this water, the bad spirit. Don't want to leave it out. I mean, leave it out. I mean, even during the day, like you wash, pour it out right away. I had I know I'm telling you a lot of my experience in yeshiva, but when at one point I was in Israel in yeshiva. There we were in a dormitory, a big dormitory, lots of bachim. Like my roommate, I was usually the first to wash, and he was always like the second one to wash negavasim. And then instead of, I don't know, he was lazy. Instead of like going to the bathroom and pouring it out, he would just like put it outside our door, like in the hallway, basically. And one day and he was like doing this for a while. One day we come to our room. There's a big note in Hebrew on his bed. It says, "Please get this bad spirit out of the hallway." Anyways, something in a memory.
Sounds like a documentary needs to be made.
It's actually okay. Now, so the water is something that we should always keep in mind to put away, to pour out right away. Now, before you wash negavaser, this bad spirit is on our hands. So we also have to be careful what we do with our hand, what we touch. Halacha 5. Lo yiga kedem until the lebapel, lebachitim, lebainaim, lebasnaim, lebapiatabas, and after the as lebaamba. Before we wash negavaser, we should not touch even our body part. We shouldn't even touch our own body, because, like I said, we woke up. The neshama is in our body, but the tumah is in our hands. So somehow, I'm not sure how this works. Somehow, touching with my finger or something could spread this negative spirit on other parts of our bodies. But it's very interesting because usually, like in halacha, we don't really talk a lot about like spirits and things like that. Like, Jewish law is very like pragmatic, right? But with this negavaser issue, it's like a very big thing with like the spirit. It's not like just like people who like study Kabbalah and like the things that we don't. So this is like halacha and Shulchan Aruch that everyone does for this like spirit idea. It's like an interesting thing. But either way, so not to touch things, so not to touch our eyes, not to touch our ears, I mean, any part of our body. Don't touch anything. Meaning, even when we wake up in the morning, we don't even rub our eyes before negavaser. It's like that. It's like that important. And also, the Alter Rebbe adds over here not to touch the water in the washing cup. So if you had, they make washing cups with like handles. Because if I hold the washing cup like this and my fingers touch the water, now the water is tameh. So the water is not going to be pure to purify my hands. So we have to be careful to hold the washing cup from the outside or from the handles.
Don't the handles get like crazy tumah?
Well, the handle, even if they get crazy tumah, you're not touching it after you wash your hands.
Yeah, I guess not. You finished out, you put down.
Now that's also one of the reasons. I mean, we'll get maybe later about using. Some people they use a towel when they wash, not for that reason, not to touch the.
Oh, a towel on top of the handle.
Yeah.
Towel.
The towel absorbs the water. Yeah, everything. Listen, I mean, this is a sad. Unfortunately, but again, I'm not in yeshiva. We had an older bacher that had a breakdown, a nervous breakdown. And he told us, this is like kind of when he was like in recovery already. He was a few years older than us. He came like to kind of have an easier time, just like kind of be with us. I don't know, whatever. So he told us that one of the time that he realized that he's having a nervous breakdown was with negavaser. And he was like so OCD with negavaser, with all these things of like holding and making sure the water is reaching every spot and then doing it again and again and again. That's where it was expressed. That's where he, like, his friends realized, hey, like something wrong. Like you're too meticulous with the negavaser. That's on the one hand. And he obviously had an issue. He was like, this was just expressing his whatever in that. On the other hand, you find that big chassidim would really, really take negavaser very seriously. Like there was a chassid, his name was Isha Damasman. known to be a very, very religious, chassid, and he literally would take 20 minutes to wash Nagabasa. And that's because for him it was like a big deal. You want to do a mitzvah, want to do it right. He used to really clean his hand and dry his hand, and he was in a lot of water. For him it was like an excitement. This is my mitzvah. This is a beautiful thing to do. It didn't come from a bad place, but us ordinary people take the Nagavasa to do what we're supposed to do, and I think we're good. But it's important to know what the halacha says about it. So it also mentions over here not to touch our clothing. So we don't obviously get dressed, but we don't even touch our clothing. Again, it's the first thing we do. We don't even touch our clothing before. That's added from the Alter Rebbe. And then here in the Kitzur it says clearly, we also don't touch food. That's something important to realize, that we don't touch food before Nagabasa. So yeah, we all might make Nagabasa. But the question is, well, what if we know someone who didn't make Nagabasa and they're touching food? Are we allowed to eat that food? Right? And this is for mashkichim in restaurants, right? You have people coming into the restaurant and they're dealing with food. There's a hechsher, there's a kosher certification on the restaurant. Are they making sure that they're making? I remember as a kid we had like a Jewish babysitter who would come in our house and also help out in the kitchen. I remember my father at the beginning taught her, like, you come in, first thing you do, you make nagabasa, and then you right.
This is applied to non-Jews.
Oh, so it says over here that this idea, this ruach ra, it's like this, the Alter Rebbe adds over here, applies only to Jewish people. So they're the Jewish people. They have this whole idea of neshama leaving and negative spirit is only to Jewish people. So for non-Jewish people, it's not a problem because they don't have to make that. So obviously, it's not a problem for them to touch the food. But however, for Jewish adults, it's important for them not to touch your food. If they did touch food, so it doesn't make it treif. It's not like, they touch food, you're not supposed to eat it. But it does say that it's better not to. It's better not to, but it's not like you're not allowed to. So the Mishnah Berurah over here says that you should wash the food. If it's food that's able to be washed. Super. This is if it's a fruit or vegetable or something that can be washed, should be washed 3 times. The Chaim Noah in the Ksesa Shulchan, he brings different opinions about this, and he basically says that you're allowed to eat it. You're allowed to eat it. However, and it says because this negative spirit is not strong enough to actually damage or to do it. It's kosher, it's fine. But he does say that it could bring timtum halev. Timtum halev is a concept of your heart is stuffed, your heart isn't open. Like it says that some people that they eat, even by mistake, if you eat something non-kosher, it causes some blockages between your heart and your brain, right? So it's just not it's more of a spiritual thing that we don't do. So therefore, it's better not to, but it's definitely kosher. You're allowed to do it. Question is about children.
Wait, what if the employee just rinses every food industry? I hope says wash your hands, before returning to work or when you get to work. So if they just wash their hands without doing this, does that count?
Not connected. Because washing your hands to be clean, you can wash it with soap, whatever it is. That's one thing. Then there's this spiritual thing of this spiritual this spirit that comes up only through making proper nagabas.
Okay.
So I'm not sure what they do in restaurants. I know that some Hashedim, I remember reading somewhere that they do say all Jewish employees have to make nagabas before. In matzah bakeries, they have to do it, and I think any restaurant should have that rule, or they wear gloves. They wear gloves, right? But if their actual bare hands are touching the food, it's better for them to make nagabas. If not, it's still kosher, 100% kosher. Question is about children. Question about children. So first of all, do children have to make nagavaser? And also, what happens if children touched food? So we'll start with the second one. If children touch food, so it's even adults that touch food, it's not l'chatchila, but it's fine. But for children, for sure, it says you can be makel, you can be more lenient if children touch food. But definitely, we should educate our children that they should make negavasser also by their bed or in the morning right away before they get up, and they should not touch food before they make negavasser. Like when they have breakfast, well, make sure you make negavasser before you have breakfast, right? That's what we should educate them to. The Alter Rebbe says that how early on, how young should we educate children or children to make negavasser? Says someone who educates a child that even that from the time of their bris, you're ready to make them negavasser, kadosh yameloi. It's like he's this extra kedusha, like extra holiness that he's bringing on their child. Already from the time of the bris, make negavasser. Listen, I have 6 children, and it's not always so easy to make negavasser in an infant. But whatever, if it's either from 8 days, or from a few weeks, from a very young age, as early as possible, we should try to make negavasser on our children.
Got like a little yeshiva going on.
Oh, what was that a minion? What was it?
They're gonna tell stories when they're older about the dorms in the house.
Yeah.
Okay. What time is it? 10:15. Okay, we got to move up over here. So halacha 6. Halacha 6. Talking about this, the tumah that's in the water. Some people they want to put the negavasser. Let's say put it next to your bed, but you don't want to make by mistake, step on it if you're getting up or whatever. So they put it under their bed. So they prepare a washing cup with a little bucket, a little pail, and you put it under your bed, and then you wake up in the morning, you pull it out, and you make negavasser. Problem is that tumah, exactly. You're not supposed to put food under a bed, because it says that when a person sleeps, this ruach ra, this negative energy, it's not just on the person, but it's on the person's whole existence and everything under the
Is
person.
it something like a tumas mace?
Maybe, I'm not sure if it connected to the idea. Tumas mace is on the bed, is the actual bed, right? It says that if you lay on something, this is under the bed, right? So something to keep in mind. Like sometimes if you're driving, you're doing a road trip, you're allowed to put food under the seats, or if you're in an airplane, or a stroller, right? Right. Or if you put it in an airplane, you put your food under the guy in front of you. So I remember hearing something.
The guy in front of you is laying back on that chair.
No. Or laying back, or even something you put it under the person's chair, right?
Yeah.
And they fall asleep. Oh, so it has to be a Jew, right? A Jewish person. So you fly El Al, it's a bigger problem. But I remember hearing somewhere, and I didn't have time to look this up, that if you're moving, it doesn't apply to like cars, or it has to be like I think on station it has to be like the ground.
Solid to the ground.
I think it's not the idea is not under someone sleeping, but it's the ground under someone sleeping. So if it's not the ground, like in theory, if someone's sleeping in a bunk bed, so I have food on the bottom bed and someone's sleeping on the top bed, that might also not be a problem because it's not on the ground under someone sleeping.
You also don't see such a thing that people are not to sleep under. Meaning, if the tumah is going to affect the food, also
You shouldn't sleep in a bunk bed, right? Exactly. I think that's the word. So it's specifically on the ground, on the floor, under someone sleeping. So that's why it wouldn't apply to all these other cases. But that's why a stroller shouldn't be an issue either. But the issue is, if you're negavasser, you're putting it under your bed. Now the water could be tummy. So that's why something also keep in mind. Now, I know with my kids, it's impossible. They get negavasser by the bed. It's always on the floor. My two toddlers, they come, they flip over it. It's a disaster. But putting on their bed is not a solution. Okay. Halacha 6. Teiv lahakbid b'ntil yadayim. Teiv lahakbid b'ntil yadayim shachis b'chliz b'mayim b'chagavra k'mayim b'ntil yadayim b'shuda. אך בשעת הדחק שאין לי לקרואי והוא לא יצא להתפלל, יוכל להיות ידם לתך כל דבר ולפעמים למים, והוא לא יקרא גם ויוכל לברך גם בסדיים. So, it says over here, that the best thing is to do a nagavasa properly, but if you don't have a washing cup, if you don't have enough water, whatever it is, then you could just wash your hands differently. Even if you don't have any other choice, you could dip your hands, or you could wash without pouring. You could just wash your hands in the sink. That will be interesting, by the way. But actually, going back to your question, what happens if an employee just washed their hands without kavana, without using a washing cup? It seems from here that b'sh'as adchak, meaning as a last resort, this could be counted as a negavas. Washing without a washing cup, without pouring, just using water. It doesn't say about the 3 times.
I read like you could like wipe it on like a wall,
but that's for davening, or that's not for this. Yeah. But he said, but the best thing is to actually to do tevilas yadayim. Tevilas means to dunk. So if you have, let's say, a live body of water, you have a river, you have like a lake or something, to actually dip your hands 6 times, that is better than washing your hands from a faucet. But the Alter Rebbe over here in the Siddur does not really agree with it. He says in the Siddur, he says that if you can't do this, you should not make a bracha. Like he really is not happy with not using a proper negavaser for the morning. But obviously, if you don't have anything, it's better than nothing. Yeah, and he finishes off like David mentioned that if you don't have any water, you can wash your hands on anything, and that will be good enough for praying for davening. And then later, if you have water, you could walk. You can wash your hands on water.
with a bracha then, or
No, without a bracha.
Tefillah is elastic, or even if you have 2 hours without them, you could still wash your hands on a piece of cloth and then daven, or if you have time, it doesn't seem to say that.
So again, the Alter Rebbe in the Siddur is not happy with this either, this whole thing. But I guess.
But if you had to,
say
like,
that, doesn't specify.
your bed, like let's say if you had to, like bed sheets or something, like a bed cover or something like that.
Whatever, something. Yeah, I think it actually says late in Hilchos of Tefillah talks about using wood, to use wood or stones to.
If you don't have the proper like cup with the 2 handles, you could use like
Any cup.
Yeah.
The handle is just convenient. Any cup, the complete cup, that's at least a 3.5 ounces.
Probably because
You don't want to
you
put.
should in the middle of, let's say, between number 4 and 5, your hands shouldn't touch each other.
Right.
So if you have like a cup and you're watching this, it's very easy.
It's easier, yeah.
I
I remember.
doesn't happen. Because if the tumor's in the middle of the towel, definitely you're gonna go back to your hands.
I was once in 770, right, and it's full of people, thousands of people there. There were these 2 old chassidim. They were pretty famous. One of them lived to be 106, I believe. Rabbi Yehuda Chidrik. You heard of him before? He was old chassid. He wrote some books. So he was there. He was probably 105 years old. He was an old man, long white beard, and he had a chavrusa. He had a study partner with Rabbi Meir Itkin. You ever heard of Adam's story with his with a little pickle? That's Meir Itkin. So they were both old. Meir Itkin was probably 10, 15 years younger, but he was probably 90 and he was 105. But he's too old, and they used to learn together. They used to learn, and in some sense, it's actually very nice to see these 2 old men that are sitting together every day and studying for whatever, half hour, an hour. So I was once there next to them, and I was kind of sitting in, listening to them study together. And then it came time to davening, and for them to get up from the shul, to go to the sink, to the faucet, to wash their hand and come back, and it was a big ordeal. It wasn't easy. They didn't have an aid with them, so it would have been a whole to do. So I remember watching him and saying, well, what is he going to do? He's looking around. He sees a shopping bag on the table. It's a plastic shopping bag. Takes a shopping bag and he kind of washes, he rubs his hand on the shopping bag. Like a bar of soap. And then he daffens. I guess he found something to wash his hand. And to me, I remember that till today. I don't remember what they were studying, but I remember that he washed his hand on the shopping bag. Okay. Um, Halacha 7. I'm not going to read it inside. Halacha 7 basically says, based on the pasuk that says that when I bless Hashem, my chokravai, it's like all of my intestines, all my whole being is serving Hashem, is speaking to Hashem. That's why you should also relieve yourself and kind of clear your body, use the restroom before davening, so you're clean and prepared to say the brachas and to daven to Hashem. Halacha 8 deals with what happens if we did not sleep. We didn't sleep, or we woke up in the middle of the night. What do we do in regards to Nagavas? Halacha 8. Im hishkim v'natan yada v'elayla kidinoy. V'haya 8 ad hayim. So you woke up early, in the middle of the night, and you washed your hands. So that's what you're supposed to do. You wake up in the morning, even in the middle of the night, you wake up, you wash your hands before you get out of bed. And then you remained awake until the morning.
Wait, if you want to go back to bed?
Oh, nothing at a time. So he was up till the morning. Or he went back to bed. And he woke up in the middle of the night, he went back to bed. And now it's the morning. Or if someone sleeps during the day, 60 breaths. What's nishmin? 60 breaths. How long does it take to breathe 60 breaths? Oh, so there are two opinions. Very, very, very extreme opinions. Now it's like funny. Well, how long does it take 60 breaths? Well, it's hard to know how you count the 60 breaths. The halacha is it's just over a half hour. Let's say 31 minutes. That's the shear. And generally, this tumah that we're talking about, that comes on the person, the shear is that it takes only if you sleep 60 breaths does it really this tumah take hold of you, on you. So if you sleep more than a half hour, then you have this whole issue with negative maseh. If you sleep less than that, there's no issue.
If you sleep in the daytime, only the stigma of the tumor is not there yet.
Not there as much, but it's not there as much.
I mean, people prepare never lots of bed.
Oh, so the walking and all that, no. But negavasa is still there. You have to make negavasa. Yeah, exactly. It's not as strong. It's not as strong. Now, so the halacha is at about a half hour. There's another opinion that says that it is 3 minutes. I guess there was something with 3, and it was either 3 minutes or 30 minutes. So the halacha is 30 minutes. So if you're sleeping during the day for 30 minutes or more, or if someone was up all night and did not sleep a half hour, slept less than a half hour during the night, in all these cases, there's a suffix if you need to wash nagavasa or not. So therefore, you wash, but you don't make a bracha. You wash, you do not make a bracha.
Okay, so I have a question.
Now,
sorry.
the Alter Rebbe adds that if you sleep during the day more than 30 minutes, but what you should do is you should touch parts of your body which are usually covered, which means any part that above your elbow or above your knee are usually covered. Which halacha is if you touch those parts of your body, you have to wash negavasa. So then you should touch those parts of the body. So now you're obligated to wash negavasa. So then then you're able to make a bracha. I mean, it goes together. But usually, if you touch those parts of the body, we'll do that. Yeah.
Was that bracha?
So this is maybe talking about a night. Give me a second.
You're touching a part of your body that's usually covered, not uncovered, covered, right?
Usually covered, yeah, including scratching your head.
So I've kind of got in the habit of scratching, if I have so in the middle of the night, I'll be like this. Is that
I mean, if you have to scratch, you have to scratch yourself. Yeah. So this is just to clarify. If someone sleeps at night more than a half hour, he has to wash his hands, right? if at night he didn't really go to sleep like a proper sleep, he dozed off. We had a quick nap at night, but it was more than 30 minutes. Then he should touch those parts of the body, and then he can make a proper bracha. If he slept less than a half hour, then you wash your hands without. Then you wash your hands without making a bracha. If you're sleeping during the day, even if it's more than a half hour, then we make negavas without a bracha. But like you said, you don't have to like make negavas right away. You have to walk more than 4 amas. But before you daven, before you eat or whatever, you should make negavas. In yeshiva, this is very important because you should fall asleep during class. And it's like, hey, how long did you sleep for? It was a half hour.
So quick question. So let's say you took a nap, and you planned on getting something, eating something with bread. You get up from your nap, you go to the restroom, and then can you do let's say a dime for bread, and that covers all 3?
Great question.
I've literally had that question.
Great question. And the question also applies. Remember, we spoke about during a meal, when you wash your hands, you're not supposed to touch those same parts. The parts that are of our body that are generally covered. When we wash our hands from and we're having a meal, if we touch those parts, we can't continue eating because our hands are not clean. We have to wash again. Not just wash our hands. We have to wash up for a again. We want to make a blessing, we have to wash again. So if you're scratching your head, if you touch above your elbow, if you touch any part of your feet, you rub your back under your shirt, right? If you touch the actual body, considered there's sweat, it's dirty, you have to wash your hands again. Rebbe had it for bringing one time. Rebbe was, and the same thing applies, by the way, for if you're studying Torah. While you're studying Torah, you're also not supposed to touch those parts.
Is your beard an extension of your hair?
I don't think so. Not in this regard, because we all stroke our beards while we're studying.
It doesn't sweat the same.
I guess it doesn't sweat. The Sikha one, you hear in a recording, the Rebbe's talking, a public talk. In the middle of the Rebbe says, "Go wash negavas." Tells the person, wow, picking your ear, and these are things.
I just see that back.
He was shoved out of the room. No, so the question is, so I'm middle of a meal and I touch something, I have to wash my hands, right? Or if I go to the bathroom, same thing. I go to the restroom, I have to wash my hands, not just for the restroom. I have to wash my hands for the meal also. So what I do? That I just wash 3 times, and then also covers the washing for the restroom. So the best thing to do, because of the bracha and everything, like in regards to the restroom, you also think of bracha, right? So the question is, what do you do? So the best thing is first wash your hands for the restroom, and then wash your hands for hamotzi. That's the best thing to do. If you didn't, it covers, because washing for the restroom is it's just water. You don't have to
So okay, so you're doing what you would do for Ashiyatzer, and then you wash again for
yeah. Okay. Halacha test, the final halacha for the siman, and he finishes off that once we're talking about negavaser is not only for waking up in the morning, and not only for eating bread. Or other times we also wash negavaser throughout the day. These are the things that we need that warrant a washing our hands until design with water. However, the Alter Rebbe adds that not necessarily doesn't have to be 3 times in every hand. So I come in Amita, which we mentioned, right? You wake up in the morning. When we use the restroom or the bathhouse, which means you take a shower, use the mikvah, things like that. You're supposed to wash, take a shower, you take a bath, you wash negavaser. If you cut your nails, after cutting your nails, you wash negavaser. You take a haircut. After taking a haircut, you're supposed to wash negavaser, which, by the way, not only taking a haircut, but also giving a haircut. That's what it's good. And something very interesting, it says that if you give a haircut and you don't wash negavaser, what's going to happen? You're going to be afraid for 3 days. There's going to be this like fear in you, and you're not even going to know what it is. The interesting thing. That's if you don't watch Nagavase. I'm not sure if it applies also for someone who gets the haircut or only for the person who gives the haircut. But definitely, someone who gives the haircut, it's important for them to wash Nagavase as well. If someone takes off the shoes, but in a way that they're touching the shoes, so their hands are getting dirty, so therefore you have to wash your hands as well.
Your feet. That's not a problem.
Exactly. They take off with their feet. Yeah. After we have marital relations, we also wash our hands Nagavase. And the Gea Bikina, if you touch a fly or a lice, but again, this is in a way that there's some like sweat or something from it, so it's like scratching your head, things like that. Because back in the day, we assumed if you scratch your head, you touched the lice.
Well,
Mafla means to fold. What does mafla mean?
check your clothes.
To check your clothes. So again, also, I guess it was common that there should be like lice or things in people's clothing. I don't think this applies today. I never heard of people washing their hands after folding their clothing. But I guess that was a concept then. If someone chayfif means to touch, but the Alter Rebbe says it means to scratch. If you scratch your head, you're here. You have to wash your hands. If someone touches their body in the places which are generally covered, and the Alter Rebbe adds, or your feet as well. Or someone that leaves a cemetery. So whether you went to a funeral or just went to visit a cemetery, when you leave the cemetery, you wash your hands. That's why most cemeteries will have, or many cemeteries will have a little faucet, a little washing cup by the cemetery. Funny thing here in New Orleans is that in Beth Israel Cemetery, if you've ever been there, they have the washing cup, the little washing station in the cemetery, which defeats the purpose. The purpose is that when you leave the cemetery, that's when you're supposed to wash your hands. So
It's the loneliest wash cup.
yeah,
Probably
well,
better than the Gates of Prayer Cemetery.
because the prayer doesn't have anything, but they have. Actually, I'm not sure about that, by the way. I remember, I'm not sure it's a prayer, but I think Hebrew Rest, like one of the Reformed cemeteries, actually does have outside of the cemetery, they have a washing station. And with the washing of the cemetery, it's interesting. It says that you shouldn't go inside a house you shouldn't go indoors before washing your hand. Which, like when I go there, I usually have like a bottle of water in my car. So before I get into the car, I wash my hands before getting into your car.
Is this any cemetery or just Jewish?
Jewish cemetery. Jewish.
See, by the oil, there's not a washing station outside.
So I think the thing with the oil is like it's like officially a tent. I guess that's what it is.
I guess the coin can go there. So because the coin can go there, it's not the same.
No,
they
it's
mark
not the
off
cemetery.
path, so it's not a. It's
Oh,
not
so you're not.
tunnel.
No, yeah, people go the other.
Right, but a kohen can walk to the path into the oil and back, and without becoming tamei.
Right.
So maybe anybody who does that same path, you don't have to be so careful.
Right, but many people go to other,
Right.
even going to the Rebbetzins. All right. Yeah, you went to the Rebbetzins, right?
They can't go into the actual.
They can. That's what the wall. That's what there's a wall.
There's a wall. The actual oil.
They can't put their hand
There's
over
two.
the-
There's a little wall around the actual oil. Then there's a big wall around, right?
They
So
can't
that
put the leather
separates.
into the-
They could go into the building, like into where the.
Because there's no room. Yeah.
Right. Right. But I'm saying many people go. You go to other aquarium over there.
Also, if you stick one hand over,
The kohanim can't throw their kitchen through the
Right.
over the
so the
wall.
rest of us do.
Well, the thing is, also it says tzaddik and mitame. So it's like.
There's an idea that it's
So it's really getting there. It's like really getting to the oil, even though we don't cover the oil for that reason. So
kind of a
yeah, it's like.
kind of very.
But either way, I'm assuming that's like the tent is considered like an outdoor facility, a temporary facility. That's why it's not like going indoors.
What did the earlier years? What did the Rebbe do after the wash?
So no, they always had negavas there by the
Before he got
car.
in the car, or before he
Yeah,
came
yeah.
to 770?
I'm almost sure before he got into the car.
Really?
You know what? Or before it's 770. I don't know. Good question. Good question. Someone goes to a funeral, or if you went under the same tent as a dead person, which means even if you're not at a cemetery, but if you had a funeral and you had a funeral, or if you're under the same roof as a mace, you have to watch Nagavaser, make his dam, and someone who gives blood, which is something to keep in mind. You know, people donate blood or for whatever reason you're giving blood. I don't think this applies to like a blood test. Does it apply to a blood test? Maybe it does. Get a blood test.
In English,
have to-
it says one who lets blood. So like,
Right.
Which is-
I would have thought.
Yeah,
like-
so I think it applies to like donating blood, like to the taking blood from you. Perhaps it applies to blood test also. That's a good question.
So like floss your teeth, you get blood.
No,
or
not
something
that. No,
like that's not
no.
English.
This is like giving blood, like you're deliberately, taking blood. That's when we. I give during they used to give a free antibody test, the donated blood. I do like 3 times, but not already. So okay, so that is basically the halachas of Nagavaser. We pretty much covered everything. Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.